All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 141 of CONSERVATISH. I think it's 141. My name is Peter Feliciano, and I'm your host. Find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano and on TikTok. And also, you can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/conservatish. Although I don't know, there's not a lot of people. There's a few really like solid people and solid fans, but I might just delete that. I don't know. If you wanted to, you could Venmo me though at Peter-Feliciano. You can also make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening and like and rate and review. And yeah, our guest today is Nico. Yay!
Hi, hey everyone.
Thank you so much for coming back, man. I really appreciate you you reaching out. Even though obviously you're a racist for coming on my show.
I definitely am. I've been told that so many times that I just accept it and wear it with pride.
Jesus.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. We were just, starting the phone call and I was talking about how, and it's individuals who mean well, but it is taxing. I mean, and maybe this is partially myopic perception on my part, because it does get easy to forget that people have always been closed-minded and people have kind of always had emotions first and logic second. People have always rioted or looted. People have always disagreed strongly with the president.
Across the history of the world.
Right. Bush was called Hitler. Obama was called Hitler. Trump was called Hitler. Like, okay, like I guess it's always been happening. So maybe it's not worse than normal, but it does feel frustrating to be told that my white friends, by mostly white friends, that they don't get to have an opinion because of their skin color. And especially because there are 41 million different Black people in this country with 41 million singular experiences, 41 million different perceptions of those experiences, 41 million different emotions elicited by those perceptions, and 41 million different reactions to those emotions. So to say that one white conservative view or one Black view, experience, it's just junior high shit, man. And it's junior high shit with money behind it. That's what's scary, is it's junior high shit with money behind it and with a lot of emotion and a lot of, well-meaning stars and well-meaning white people telling people what they can and can't say or can and can't, I mean, I was just having an exchange with a well-meaning guy on Instagram just now, and just like, he kept saying, is this what you want? Is this your trying to bait people into the code? I'm like, listen, just talk to me about your research. I know you don't mean to make this personal. I know you care. Tell me what research you have done, and I will go and do that, because I've done my research. I've spent hours and days dunking my head in crap I do not want to listen to and I do not want to look at. And from my research, I have not found your ideas to be true. So tell me what research. And he's like, well, he hasn't answered and I'm just like, stop trying to make this personal. Like, just tell me what research you've done, And
you're not trying to slam dunk anything. You're trying to plead for complexity in the conversation.
Yes.
You're not even saying I'm right. You're just saying I want to ask these questions.
Right.
And that's something you should always respect, as long as they're done with the same good intentions that they have. I mean, in terms of like, I'm trying, what you're saying about there's money behind it is the timing on that is pretty good, because I've been thinking about this and I like to bounce this idea off you, because I'm getting that frustration here on the West Coast. I'm in Pacifica, an area 10 minutes out of San Francisco, and I can't drive. There's 3 houses in my backyard that have literally a sign in the front of their shop or their residential home saying, we believe Black Lives Matter and immigrants are welcome and no wall and all. It's all this stuff, and I'm like, there's so much vanity in it. And I ask myself, why am I getting so resentful of these ideas? it's because the ideas themselves feel very corporate. Not in the fact that there is money backing it, but corporate in the definition of very streamlined, very surface level, and kind of sounds good. It's like if this is food for thought, that thought is the equivalent of McDonald's. You can eat it, you can have some sustenance, but if you just fill on that idea alone of Black Lives Matter, of Me Too, Believe Women, these simple ideas, you're just gonna be sick. Like you're it's so lacking to what you need to have the conversations, to have the conversations in your own head about it. And part of why people like you and me feel so passionate about having these conversations is because we know that when you have these conversations, as uncomfortable as they are, it's incredibly rewarding. Yeah. Like the friends that I talk to about these kind of things, and they're kind of outside of that bubble of thinking, don't you leave, and you can speak to this too, don't you leave those phone calls feeling hella optimistic?
Yeah. Yeah.
You go ahead. Yeah.
No, I posted this thing, and I'll be coming out with another one either today or tomorrow. I still have to tweak it. See, everybody, I'm trying to be careful. But I don't think you follow me on social media, but I started this weekly series called "People of Color Do Horrible Things All the Time, Just Like Whites."
Yeah.
And so I'm tweaking and I'm trying to get it right and whatever. And then when I posted the first one, I certainly got a number of I only got one half. I say that, obviously tongue in cheek or whatever, but I only got one half person of color to be like, I disagree with this, but he's also a guy who loves me and we love each other. And I'm actually going to go on his show soon, Thomas Hura. But almost on the whole, everybody I was watching and getting the secret likes, getting the secret like, okay, I read that, and it's secretly like from not just people of color, because people of color showed the fuck up, sending me messages and sending me thank you, like, because they're sick of hearing that white people are the devil and black people are just
really
scared little lambs.
Good.
But it was really heartening to feel like, oh, this person liked this? Okay, all right, I see you.
Yeah.
I see you. Even though I know that when I click on their profile and I look at their profile, I see a black square, or I see, and I'm not saying that they're being secretive or whatever. I'm saying they mean well and they believe these things, but they're open to the conversation. They're open to the nuance. They're open to the context, and that's so heartening. And the only people who really are not open to the nuance and not open to the conversation are not really people I want in my life, honestly, most of the time.
Yeah.
Or I mean, let me bounce this idea off of you. You're a smart motherfucker. Do you feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like a lot of that, and Alex and I were talking about it on the last show, but I feel like a lot of those well-meaning whites who are telling white people like that they don't get to have an opinion here don't know a lot of blacks. And even when they do, they only know a certain version of the black voice, the black experience, quote unquote. Like, so I feel like it's another version, even though it's maybe 15 layers deep underneath. I want black people to have power, and I want black people to have a voice, and I want black people to, like, all the way down here, the gas in that engine is kind of white supremacy.
Yeah.
I mean? Like, what do you think of that? What do you think of that?
I would say that I think that these well-intentioned white people, I think that they do know black people, but they have succumbed to the power of white guilt. I feel like we are seeing the power source that is white guilt, at least in how things are playing out today. And I'm just kind of surprised by the submission that people have to these ideas. Like it's a complete, like, not a submission like a white flag kind of thing, but a reverence, like bowing in church before the altar. Like that, it's that kind of vibe. So they may have black friends, but they're so influenced by that social pull that their perception of the individual in front of them is completely, like, the best way to say it, like, I had a teacher at San Jose State who, she's one of these well-intentioned white people, and I pressed her on these actions in terms of looking at us as individuals, and she's like, I get it, but one time I was having lunch with my black friend and someone drove by and called her a nigger. And I'm just like, so this is that sole moment is your reason or your fuel to push this curriculum forward and this well-intentioned ideology and again, tying it back to our frustration with talking to these people, I think it's hard because you eventually realize that the narrative you're pushing, which is being an individual, is also applied to them. So you can't force them to see what you are seeing on your terms.
Right.
How many ideologies you had in your life that you've walked away on your own terms with? Like, I can't believe that anymore.
Right.
You don't want to take that away from someone else, as annoying and arrogant and condescending as they can be. That's my thought on that.
I agree. And, there's been a couple of people who, I got off on a tear for a couple of nights here, especially during the riots and stuff, where I was, I would kind of, it wasn't the greatest thing.
You engaged it. You stepped into
engaged. Mostly I would see white people saying things like, white people don't get to have this opinion. And then I would post the episode with a nice, well thought out paragraph or 2 or 3 about how, what about the black voice you're not listening to? What about the black people who agree with this person? Do they get to have an opinion? Do they get to say this? And then here's the link. And I mostly got good, or mostly got understanding. I think because their white guilt would override that need to like fight me, and all of a sudden they'd be like, of course I make space for black voices. Which is like, I see you, motherfucker. Like you're not open. You're not open, Anyway, sorry. But why am I saying I definitely engaged a little too much, but I think the difference is, and I love that a lot of the people who disagree with me still not just listen to the show, even if they don't listen to the show, hold space for me and love me. Even if they unfollow me, they still hold space for me and love me. And if I know I could call them at any point and be like, I need help, whatever, like I know that that's great.
Yeah.
At the same time, that you were saying that we have to let them find it for themselves. And that's totally true. At the same time, in the space between where they're at now and finding it for themselves means all cops are bad, let's defund the police. That's not okay. If in the space between where they're at now and finding it for themselves means more black cops will be killed, or more black owned businesses will be taken down, or more, do you understand what I'm saying? Like the stakes are, they feel, and I'm totally open to the idea that that's just fear in my brain and my personal fear and my personal ego. But I do feel like the stakes are a little bit too high to not at least push hard. And it's scary to push hard because, God damn it, I want people to like me. You know what I mean?
It's like that
too.
Instead of a handshake.
That too. But also, honestly, just to be completely like gross and personal, like I just want motherfuckers to like me. And it sucks for people to not like you. It sucks, especially when you're in the artistic business. Like I look at motherfuckers, I look at my friends who are like, oh yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Pete. And then they go about their lives and they go back to painting, or they do their fucking electrician job. And I'm like, God, I wish I could do that. God, I wish I could just say, no more social media, but I have to do that. Like, I have to engage, and it sucks, and I don't want to, and I don't want to do this. I mean, I do, but it's like, fuck, I wish I could just live peacefully, blissfully, with a gun somewhere, and then
Yeah.
as long as they don't fucking come on my cul-de-sac, I'm good. But like, I I feel not like a martyr because I'm goddamn not. I'm not that important.
Hey, good ego
but
check. Good ego check
yeah,
there. Good,
I
good.
have to ego check myself, and I also feel like I have to speak up, and it's a weird balance.
It's a
It's a
very weird
weird.
balance.
Yeah.
I think it's. I mean, I share your concerns too. I mean, during that period of riots, I was just meditating extra, but
Right.
I was noticing that a lot of my anxiety was just coming from being on the Twitter bubble, even if it was following the people who have the same exact thoughts you and I have.
Right.
Like it didn't matter. It's just you're in this arena. I think the quote was social media is like a town hall that ends up in nonstop brawling. And yeah. I'm like, this is it. And when you spend so much time on this, you can be easily convinced that your world as you know it is coming to an end or being infringed upon. And there are valid concerns when like the ones you listed, but you realize also that it's not the whole conversation. I say that because I believe in Alex, who had that conversation with you, and Shelby Steele and Coleman Hughes and Glenn Lowry, and like I do my part by pressing my teachers in these classes. And here's a really optimistic story for you. This is what turned me. I haven't been on social media these past 4 or 5 days, but the only story I wanted to see that made me feel like possibility, optimism. So you can actually go to the GoFundMe for the guy's place, or the black owner's sports bar.
Fireman?
Yeah, the fireman whose place was burned down in the riots in Minneapolis. Dude had a goal of 100,000. It was destroyed. He said in the original posting, during my CNN interview, people were coming in to loot the safe. 20 minutes later, people came in with brooms to sweep up and help me clean. And that was a week ago. The dude's been posting like pictures of black and white people helping him. He's already up to $1 million when his goal was just 100,000. And I like the fact that in his updates, he doesn't say white people came to help. He doesn't say black people and white people together. Yeah, there's those photo op kind of shots where this white person's helping, but it's always just the people of this town and this community are showing me love. People are going to make it like, oh, black business owner, look at these white people helping them. It's like, no, those were just people, good people.
Right.
And I honestly, it brought tears to my eyes seeing something like that. Like, that's the story I will hold on to of how I that's a story of possibility. When you see all these riots and all that, it's just a story of destruction.
Right.
I don't care how righteous it is, and I can't. It's the growing theme of my whole education. I can't get behind it if I'm being fueled by resentment. Not a good
How
energy.
do you do that though? Do you know how hard that is? God damn. I have to. I mean, and I do a pretty good job as far as better than I have in some ways, but it is a fucking hard thing to do. God damn.
Yeah. It's. I guess you need to have a healthy dose of it. This food for thought thing, and sometimes you want to just have McDonald's and get into the arena and just get something quick and talk to the people who do this or who engage in these simple thoughts. But at the end of the day, you kind of have your own life to live. And if you're going to live through your actions, which you're having these conversations, you are doing your individual role of broadcasting it, carrying it into your interactions with people at Grape in the Fog across the nation, anywhere, right. Wherever you perform, you're having those little private conversations that just, I mean, small ponds in the water, so small pebbles in the pond, but at least throw those pebbles. Don't just be yeah, go ahead.
Right. Is it so I definitely agree with you. And ultimately we're all only responsible for our little cul-de-sac, our little family connections and our friends and whatever. part of my fuel behind that fear or that resentment is that I don't want my white friends to keep hurting. I don't want my white friends to feel like they don't get to have a say in this, because I don't trust. I don't automatically implicitly trust. I don't know what implicitly means. I don't automatically trust a motherfucker just because he's got black skin. I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah.
They were saying this well-meaning white chick. It's always the white meaning well women mostly.
Silence is violence.
Right. It's always white. It's always well-meaning white women or white guys who aren't fucking right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean? I have a wife. Mm-hmm. So
I like that.
I mean, she's not attracted to me, but like whatever. So this is my show, motherfuckers. Sorry, you know what you're getting into. But it's a white meaning well woman, a well-meaning white woman put a something like, here's why we should defund the police. And it was like a well thought out, or maybe a well screenshotted 5 to 10 different slides about how we blah, blah, blah. And in one of the slides, it said, people are often, the reason if we defund the police, then we'll be able to step up in different ways, and we'll be able to trust different, our community leaders and our, I even heard somebody say, well, Black Lives Matter said that they will pick up the slacks. Okay. But in that she said, people are often, committing crime because they lack opportunity. And I did at first post something a little bit more agitated, but then I deleted that and I reposted what the meat of what I was trying to say is that I've actually done volunteer work in prison since 2011, and I know murderers. Yeah. And sure, sometimes they were just I was just trying to make some money to feed my daughter, like Biggie said. Yeah. But honestly, they also liked killing people. Sorry, or they were doing it because their girlfriend cheated on them, or they were doing it because they were drunk driving and they killed somebody on a bridge. Like this is not lack of opportunity that's making people kill people. It's dirty, dark, filthy fucking humanity. And the other part of that.
Go ahead.
The ending part to that is, why then, if it's lack of opportunity that's making people kill each other, why are there so many poor people who don't kill? Why? Yeah. Why are there so many poor people, white, black, indifferent, whatever, who aren't murdering people? What's the difference? Is it choice? Are we responsible for our reactions, or are we not? Make a fucking choice,
Yeah. And I agree with you. I will say I kind of feel empathy for white guilt, because I kind of have this guilt for my own privileges, because when I heard Alex talk about his experience from being in those dangerous areas of Detroit, in my head I thought, well, I'm just a Black and Filipino guy from upper middle class. I've had good opportunities. No one's going to want to listen to me. If I write anything, they're going to write me off. They're going to write me off as, who can listen to this guy? He's never struggled. But that's weird, because I'm having the same exact thoughts and beliefs that a person from the hood. I don't know if he actually came from the hood. I don't know his whole life, but I listened to. It's a mix.
Dirty, dark, deep, dirt Detroit.
But I'm having the same thoughts and beliefs that he has. I'm having the same thoughts and beliefs that another white person is having secretly. Mm-hmm. It's an individual ideology that can be adopted, and I say this because like that guilt is pretty powerful in keeping you quiet.
Right.
I don't know. Is that right? That I should feel reserved in sharing my opinion because I came from a good background?
No, I don't think anyone should feel reserved because what's the end game to that thought, as an example, as well-intentioned or temporary as it is? Then let only poor people get to fix poor people. Well, a lot of poor people are dumb as shit. And a lot of poor people and a lot of rich people are dumb as shit. A lot of poor people are selfish and lazy, just like a lot of rich people are selfish and lazy, and they don't want to help, because humans are humans. I'm not saying that people from upper middle classes don't have a responsibility, whatever, to understand how fucking fucked up that is. But ideas are king. Ideas are king. And I can prove that ideas are king because as soon as all these white motherfuckers online who were like, only white people don't get to have this idea, then I held a fucking mirror up to them and I was like, what about this black person? Then all of a sudden it was silence on the fucking hill. Fucking debate the idea. You stupid fucking cunt. Debate the idea. Take it in your dirty little white mouth.
Yeah.
Debate the idea. Ideas are king. Because as soon as I said, well, what about the black people? It was silence. Yeah. It was, well, I hold space for black voices. Okay, then tell me where that black voice is wrong. Give me the fucking research, please. And if you haven't done the research and you're only relying on the emotions elicited by a screenshotted tweet, you're a fucking asshole. And you're hurting people. You're furthering that agenda. You're furthering that agenda of separation. And fuck that.
Yeah, I agree. It gets me heated too. Is that tea you're sipping?
Coffee.
I understand.
I know. I need more coffee.
I guess to go back to what you were saying with the people you worked with in prison that murdered and actually did that shit, and you were listing off the reasons why they were there. Again, these are individual stories that are dismissed when you apply a broad brush of they're mass incarcerated. Like, you wouldn't know any of that shit. And that's why I love, in a kind of like a weird way, the Washington Post has actually kept a record of all the police killings since 2015. You can break it down. I don't know. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
You can break it down into whatever category you want, down to fleeing, not fleeing, unsure, white, black, everything in between. And a lot of people, if they just go off the front page, they'll go to that one headline that says blacks are disproportionately killed. Based on their overall population, the population they make up. So it already paints the picture of the blacks are just getting shot en masse. But if you actually go to the numbers, then you see situations where a lot of those people had guns. A lot of those people didn't have guns. Like, there's a total of 6 unarmed, not fleeing police deaths in 2019. 6. White is at like 25.
No, I think it was. I think, or someone told me it was 9 black and 19 white. But I haven't looked at the Washington Post one. I think the Washington Post one might have been Washington Times. Is from like 2016. Is it the one where it's gray and you hover over like a person, like a little? It looks like a little Monopoly guy, and then they turn red.
They've updated.
Oh, they have.
They've updated. Okay. It's now you can like break it down to race, and then it gives you the exact numbers, and then it gives a source for every single case. And even in the 6 unarmed black men killed by the police, when you read those individual stories that were not fleeing, by the way, the 6 that were not fleeing and unarmed, some of them were ambiguous and some of them were clear cut. And even if they are clear cut, that's 6 people getting killed by the police. Why are we going so deep into just seeing only black people in this overall problem? That's the thing. It's like, wave the magic wand. Cops don't kill any black people. Are you just going to walk away with your arms up from the game and while a whole bunch of white Latino people are getting killed by the cops? Right. And not a whole bunch. It's still like out of 15 million interactions between citizens and police, 1,000 end up in a death, in a fatal shooting. It's not good. It's a legitimate problem to bring up. But the hysteria of approach is what's not warranted, because it stops this from happening, this talk.
Right. And not just the hysteria, but the misunderstanding and the lack of even trying to understand how complicated black people are. That's really bothersome. So one of the things that I found from my FBI 2017 research a few days ago, and Alex and I talked about it. Well, we didn't talk about this specifically, but one of the things I found is that blacks were less, even though they're 27% of the arrests, they were only 14% of the arrests for driving under the influence. And
wait,
and
repeat that again. Repeat that again.
Okay, so blacks are 14%, 12, 13% of the population of the United States. Of all the arrests in 2017 of people over 18, black people were only 14% of driving under the influence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, of all total arrests, they were 27%. So that means they're arrested less than what the normal, even though the normal is more. They're arrested at about the regular rate of 14% of driving under the influence, while white people are 80% of arrests for driving under the influence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's way higher, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of, I know it's a conversation we don't want to have because in this realm, it's hard to dip our toes into the fact that we're different and we react differently. But sometimes black motherfuckers can be volatile. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes more often than not, or maybe not more often than not, but can, especially if they are told from the jump that they are going to get harassed, or if they have experience with a bad, shitty cop who was being an asshole, like the reaction to even being in an interaction with a cop, white, black, whatever, and that's a whole nother goddamn thing we haven't talked about. Yeah. But in that reaction where they're being more volatile, I mean, I've actually watched cops. Has no one seen the first 48? Has no one watched a lot of motherfuckers who know that they have cops or cameras on them reacting the same way to black and white? You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a lot of good cops out there, and to say, I don't know, I'm swerving all over the road. What was I saying? Oh, good, man. That there are behavioral differences.
Yeah.
And those behavioral differences or quirks, whether they be because race did it, and I don't think race, it's more culture, that those have an influence of some fucking kind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't tell me that black fucking drummers are below almost every white, not all white, there's a lot of good white drummers, but more consistently, black gospel drummers beat the fucking shit out of everybody else. Okay? Why is that the case? Because culture. Because they grew up in the fucking church and they do they just beat the shit out of everybody else. Okay? Yeah. If they're 14% of the population, they are fucking 99% of badass fucking gospel drummers.
And
why?
Yeah.
Because culture decided. So why can't a piece of the influence of this conversation be, well, black people, black men especially, are also told, don't trust cops, be careful, tell cops what like Patrice used to say, tell cops what the law is. They love that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like be a little bit fucking more belligerent. You know what I'm saying? Like there's influences more than just black good, white bad. It's insane.
You miss out on the story because I've been thinking about this thought from, I think Coleman Hughes said, you know, if you look across various measurements of a culture's success, so economics, wealth gain, and all that stuff, disparity is something, at least painted by mainstream society, as a bad thing. It's like, oh, look, whites are doing good here, blacks are doing bad here. That's racism. And it's like, well, if you look across an even finer comb, you'll find that disparities is actually the norm in terms of if you look at the wealth for a French American versus a Russian American. Why is it that Russians are making a significant amount of money more than French? Or why is it that a Catholic individual is living this way and a Jewish individual in America is living this way? You can find these cat and mouse discrepancies all over the place, these disparities. And I guess it's, I mean, we look at those things and it's a shame that we only look at the white and the black and immediately ascribe racism instead of understanding, hold on, right. These people were not just standing in a vacuum and right. This interaction, this stat line just hit them in the head. Like that's not how it goes. So why these black drummers are so incredible and blowing the waters out of just drumming in terms of skill compared to other races. It's not because they're black. I agree. It's because of their culture. But that culture of a segment of the Black community cultivated discipline, resilience, and just tenacity with getting better at that craft to a point where no one could ignore your talent in that regard. And we see this mostly in the Black community, music and sports. So that, like I said before, it's like the narrative in that regard is, wow, look at, despite all their circumstances, they managed to beat the odds. But when they don't do well in school or math or something, it's because everyone around them sucks ass. It's not because they suck ass. It's like, and I'm not saying that everyone that they haven't experienced some sort of obstacle.
Sure.
I'm not. I get it. Obstacle, tragedy, and mistreatment is part of the human experience.
Right.
But to only expect that of them and to be like, well, yeah, just give them an excuse. I would take that excuse and run with it too. If it just got things a little easier for me, or it got things, it's a power because you can play off that. I don't know. It's just like conning an adult as a kid into buying you what you want.
Right.
I don't know.
I did it, before I got sober. I had that same the quote unquote tragedies in my life or obstacles that I had, which I think is a normal human thing to do. But I certainly, when I would go to therapists or when I would go to school counselors, I had a whole litany. I had a pile of a bunch of tiny little sand granules that equaled the giant fucking mound of reasons why life had shit on Pete Feliciano. And I would be willing to share that with anybody. And if I could get you to feel sorry for me, and I didn't know I was doing this consciously. I did not know. But if I could get you to feel sorry for me, then I had a blank check for anything I was going to do.
Isn't that, see, and you're conscious of it. Now you can say that in the retrospect of the maturity and the time since then. Like you could either double down and use that to just fuel you with fear. Honestly, at a certain point, it's fear to be yourself, fear to live your own life on your own terms, and fear to just be free from the mess of a past. But it's sometimes that fear will stifle people and have them just sit with it. And this is what I will say from having this ideology in me at some point. It's pretty intoxicating. It when to have
victim mentality.
Yeah, like you gotta admit, it's like it's a really good shot of liquor. It makes you feel like that hoof, but it's so false. It's false. Right. It's false confidence.
Self-righteousness feels really good too.
Yeah.
These people who and to bring it all the way back, I don't even mind us not having conversations. I mean, I do, I guess, but like, I don't really mind us not having conversations about the meat of the arguments themselves. I don't really mind people not listening to my fucking podcast. I don't really mind, because there's a lot of fucking podcasts and shit I'm not interested in listening to it at all. Especially because it's just going to be white people are the devil.
Yeah,
I'm not interested in that horse shit. But you gotta realize, even if you fucking super disagree with me and with this, I mean, I'm a halvesy. You're half black, half Filipino. So obviously, if you're white and you're listening and you disagree, you're a racist. But anyway, if even if you don't want to come to the table, don't tell me that I'm not allowed to come to the table. Don't tell me that I'm not allowed to say whatever the fucking sweetheart shit I want to fucking say and think whatever the fuck I want to say.
Yeah.
It's not just not quantifiable because I'm 45% white. It's hurtful to our dialogue, and it's just not true, man. It's just not goddamn true to and mostly it's white motherfuckers who are saying that shit.
Yeah.
And the reality is I was I can't remember where it was, but there's this conflation between someone reached out to me. I'm gonna have Lux Gaze on my show, and she was getting canceled. She was this cute little white girl from Canada who does music, really good music, and she was secretly following these, not secretly, but she wasn't being Pete Feliciano, who's just like, you like my music. Here's some opinions you don't like.
Yeah.
But she was just trying to keep it low key, whatever. And then it started to come out that she had sent some money to that guy. She had sent some money to that firefighter and shared that GoFundMe. And then a bunch of people like latched onto her and tried to cancel her.
Wait, what? Wait,
I'll repeat it. So she donated money to the black fireman who had his place destroyed, and then shared that on social media, and then a bunch of people tried to cancel her
because of who she followed.
So, she's gonna talk all about it. It's a very interesting story, but
I'll be listening.
But in the course of that, I got a message. And I got a message on the sly from this person on Instagram saying, "Hey, you should be careful to have this person on your show. She's been unaccountable for her racism," which is just fun. Define accountable, by the way, dum-dum. Define accountable.
Wow.
Head hanging in the street or canceled on Instagram. No, not allowed on social media at all. Define accountable, stupid cunt. But anyway. She's unaccountable for her racism. She obviously she called some of the groups in when my black friend reached out to her to have a conversation. She told them. She said, "What did she?" She said Lux Gays was unapologetic about calling some of these looters black groups. That's racist. Hang on, saying that's wait. That's racism? What do you hang on? And I sent a message back to her. I'm like, well, I mean, I don't disagree with that. And not just that, but in the course of a long form conversation, well, actually any conversation, I'm sorry. In the course of a conversation, it can be easy to just flippantly say something because you're getting down to a point. I've said so many things. I have literally weeks and months of me talking dumb shit. And I'm sure I've said tons of shit that I would disagree with right now, even though I knew in my heart where I was trying to go. You know what I mean? In a conversation, right? So even if that was wrong, she's trying to get to a point and she's having a conversation with somebody. But what this person said, and I remember it very clearly, I screenshotted the whole goddamn thing. What this person sent to me was that Lux Gaze was trying to silence my black friend's voice. Disagreement is not silencing. We're conflating silencing, which, unless you're the fucking runner of Instagram, you have no power over.
Yeah.
And disagreement as the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's even more dangerous.
Yeah.
It's even more dangerous. If someone, again, and I say this all the time because I think it really makes sense, and I'm really smart and amazing. I would agree with the medicine if the diagnosis was right. If the diagnosis was right, that this person was being silenced, then I would agree. Let's fucking riot in the streets. If black people were actually being killed at a disproportionate number,
I'd be out too.
I'd be in the fucking streets too.
We wouldn't be talking.
The medicine diagnosis was correct, but the diagnosis ain't correct, and you're closing your ears to that fact, and it's literally killing people. It's literally killing people, right? And so I sent her a message. I'm like, listen, from my exchanges with this person, and I don't know her, but from my exchanges with this person, I haven't gotten that vibe at all. In fact, we've had a conversation about this black friend of hers and how we've talked about this, like how this is not what you think it is. And she sent me a message back. Well, just so you know, this black person was tried to be silenced by Lux Gaze. And if you don't take down the episode, which it wasn't up and it isn't up yet. If you don't take down the episode, then I'll tell my friend who has 20,000 plus followers and we'll come after you. So I tried to be nice, but eventually I did say in the message, listen, I don't kowtow to bullies. I don't care what fucking skin color you are. I don't kowtow to bullies. Bring the other versions. Let's fucking talk. Let's fucking throw. Let's see who's gonna get fucking people silenced.
Yeah.
Dumb piece of shit.
I will say it's so hard, but everyone's pushing well, at least not everyone, but the mainstream black Lives Matter kind of narrative is to, hey, follow Malcolm X more. Like Martin Luther King's not working, and I feel more MLK as you were telling me the story of that person. Like I feel genuine sadness for that individual, as wrong as what they're doing. Like I heavily disagree with what they're doing, going after someone that they disagree with. But on the other, I feel sad for them, and I don't know. It's like once you're able to, like for me, the most freeing moment was when I was able to listen with an open ear to the people I was trained to disagree with, the people I was trained to see as hindering the cause. Like I was so, when in 2016 and the lead up to 2016, I was such a Bernie fan, man. Like I was super progressive. I loved it. I felt like I was a part of something. And it just kind of, I just kind of reached a dead end. Like I said in the last time we spoke about my experience at San Jose State, I learned quickly that victim narrative leads you to a wall, and it stops you from feeling hope for yourself. And it's not doing that intentionally. It's just, instead, it's like if someone were talking to you and all they did was focus on obstacles in your life, obstacles, versus talking to someone who's talking about all your potential and all the things you're going to bring to the table that no one else has. And all, it's like I was finding that those ideas were found in things that were from conservative speakers. That doesn't mean I'm conservative. And that's the thing, is that the conversation has gotten so much to, I hear your opinion and I immediately ascribe or prescribe your political party to it, which is not, you can't do that. Like I can listen, like I've been listening to Larry Elder since our last conversation a lot. You got me into it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff I disagree with him on policy.
Sure.
And like,
absolutely.
But when I hear those things that I disagree with, I don't have that vehemence behind it. It's just a nope. Yep. And
yeah.
And it's to that person that's threatening canceling, I'm sorry that you are so overwhelmed by fear, but when you're able to approach things you disagree with without your heart on your sleeve, it can be very liberating. It can be very liberating. And that's freedom, that's beauty. And then it's a beauty to know not only good things, just good things, but uncomfortable things and things that make you reanalyze your whole life almost. But
right.
You don't experience those benefits if you just stop the conversation altogether. And I'm thinking that person would probably say, well, then you could just get a white supremacist on the show and they can talk about their feelings. It's like, I guess they can, but I mean, me as a black man, if you were to interview a KKK person, I'm not saying you would. This is not me saying that Peter would do that. Don't mix it up. But if you did, what effect does that have on my day? Right. Is that guy you're interviewing, is he going to walk up into my where I work and be like, no, you can't because I said these things and they exist in this world? It's like, no, man, I got my life to live. I love myself too much to let you debilitate me from a distance.
Right.
People are giving so much power to something that doesn't even have any power over them that to begin with. It's an illusion on their part. And it's tragic. It's tragic. I feel bad for white people and black people that are preying on their guilt. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely. I was thinking about how with Larry or with Ben Shapiro or people that I disagree with or agree with a lot of their stuff, when I do hear something I disagree with, my reaction is usually like, all right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there goes Larry being Larry, or there goes Ben being Ben, or yeah. Okay, I get it. Yeah. I mean, with Ben as a perfect example, I like Ben's approach. I like the way I honestly am jealous of the fact that he knows as much as he knows and can get really like good in a debate without getting emotional as, I mean, he's done it once or twice, but
Yeah.
without getting emotional, and he can do all of that shit without saying cunt. Like, that's fucking amazing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm coming in swinging, saying nigger and cunt and all kinds of horrible shit. Like, and that's just my personality.
Yeah.
But with him, he's able to do that, which is cool. But the thing I super disagree with him, or not super, this thing where I tune him out, where I go, all right, Ben, hurry up, let's get to the next thing, is when he starts talking about religion, when he starts talking about, I take everything he talks about, how wonderful Jerusalem is, with a grain of salt. Not that I disagree with him, or that I'm like free, whatever, but I'm like, they were probably being cunty. You know what I mean? Jews can be cunty too sometimes, Ben. Like, and so I take everything with a grain of salt because I'm a fucking free goddamn thinker, and I don't want anybody to tell me what the fuck to goddamn say or think. You know what I mean? And that's the smart way, I think, to approach life. You know what I mean? And the people who are yelling about stopping people from talking right now are the left. They just are. And I would be saying I say this every week, I feel like, but I would be saying the same thing in the 80s and 90s when the PMRC was going after Frank Zappa and going after Prince and going after Cop Killer and going after all this shit. Like, I would be saying, hey, these motherfuckers don't tell them what they're allowed to goddamn make. Free speech, free thought, even if I disagree with them. But the people who are saying, shut up, you don't get to talk, are the left right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Jeez. I gotta ask a question on our part. Do you think that maybe we talk about being fueled by frustration and it ends up hurting us? It's like in Buddhism, they call anger a stone. It could be good. I mean, it's like holding a hot stone. At a certain point, you hold on so long, you're burning yourself. You have to let it go. So in regards to conversation with these people, with these individuals that get overwhelmed with fear and anxiety at anything they disagree with, do you think maybe we don't need to be so adversarial in our approach? For example, I'm sorry, but facts don't care about your feelings is so corny, man. At the time, you gotta admit it.
I think when he made that, when he did that, he was more. Sometimes we say things to help further the conversation, and sometimes we give our side a nice little starburst. Sometimes we give our side a nice little something to hang on to. You know what I mean? A nice little hashtag. I think he was, maybe okay, being a little cunty. At the same time, you know what I mean? I don't mind that.
What was that epic metal band album title that I liked that you hated? We were talking about an epic metal band that was hella dorky, and it was like
Fall in Middle Earth.
Yes, and I thought that was awesome as shit. And you're like, oh, that's damn.
You're really showing your Filipino side with that shit, motherfucker.
It's like it's just kind of like that tagline it's a corporate idea in the fact that it is true, but it sounds so it's like approaching the conversation instead of I don't know.
No, I agree. Have you heard of Roland Fryer?
Yeah, I just listened to his podcast on the Manhattan Institute with his study regarding these police shootings and the terrible discovery that do you want me to say it or did you want to discuss it? The terrible discovery he was working. So Roland Fryer is an economist, black economist, won the award for best economist under 40. And he's conducted numerous researches on black stereotypes because like his inspiration, he said, would be watching like Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy. And as he's watching it as an economist, he's like, I'm getting data for that. I'm going to get data for that. I'm going to get data for that shit. And that's so gangster. But he talks about, he went and studied numerous police stations across various metropolises across America.
Yeah, 10 cities.
10 cities, rode along with them, the double shifts and everything. And he realized, like, one, black people aren't getting killed at any different rate or met with deadly violence at any different rate than another race. and a fair point to make. He did find that they were experiencing more roughhousing at lower level crimes, but not deadly. It's still, that's something to address.
Definitely.
But what he noticed was that in the cities that had a case of mainstream appeal where a black man was killed by the cops, in the 2 years after the investigation was announced into that police killing, in the 2 years after that, in each of those cities, the homicide rates went significantly higher. And in the end, he's like, based on this data,
the homicide rates of cops
of those cities. So those cities that
just homicide rates, not cops involved.
Yeah, just homicide rates.
Okay.
In those communities went significantly higher. And he said the tragedy in this is these black people that were killed by the cops was devastating, is devastating, and it'll never be repaired. But when the media leaves, the police kind of ease back from fear of scrutiny, and that results in about 1,000 deaths in just homicide alone in those communities of black people. And it's just, that's something you would never expose yourself to. Like he said that he was only met with one shouting match, and he was just pitching the data to his peers like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? He thought someone would say, wow, that's interesting, about 1,000 deaths after the media leaves. That's interesting. We'll see about those numbers. But a person was like, I don't even want to see that. How can you publish this? Like, why would you do that? And he was just confused. Like, what? So I see the person trying to cancel, I forgot her name, I'm sorry. Her.
Lux Gaze, yeah.
Lux. I see the person trying to cancel the same as that person who was yelling at Roland Fire for getting that data. Like, the dude was open about his bias going into it, dealing with the cops. He's like, I hated the cops because I didn't want them to find what was in my car. Right. But because I don't like the cops. So let's see what the real thing is. And he said, last thing I'll say, when he was training in like Houston and stuff and going through police training, the chief was like, you'd be a terrible fucking police officer.
Yeah.
And when he was riding around, he'd be like, oh, I'm going to get that guy looks suspicious. Let's go talk to him. And the cop would immediately be like, oh, no, that's just Mr. Jones. He likes to do this. And he kind of results in him doing these kind of things. And he's just like, oh, shit. Like, the amount of situational awareness you have to have as a cop, that's a hard ask for any human being. And there's a lot of people who rise to that occasion, and there are going to be people that fail. Yes, we want to get them accountable, but we don't want to make them hypersensitive to what is already a sensitive ass job.
Right. And we don't want to defund them. We don't want to defund the police.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to get, I think the huge swath, I love that word, I think the huge majority of people who are on that side are well-meaning people. And I think almost all of them are well-meaning, and they just don't have, the marionette strings or whatever. But I do think there is a portion of former maybe anarchists or whatever who are at the strings of Antifa in some way or another, that are wanting anarchy and are just wanting to choose Black lives as the thing.
Yeah.
Who are wanting to choose, who are essentially, remember the Team America, or no, it wasn't Team America. It was Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, the South Park movie. They were like, and now we go into Operation Get Behind the Darkies. You know what I mean? So they put all the black soldiers in front. I think that's what Antifa is doing. Operation Get Behind the Darkies. They put the black people in as cannon fodder. And so when they get all the fucking bullets first, they get all the whatever, and then we come in to sweep up and get power. And it's pretty gross. It's pretty gross. And the well-meaning white people who are just along for the ride, saying things like white people don't get to have an opinion, are adding power to that narrative, and it's sad and it's scary, and I agree with you. I don't think that it's necessarily worse now than it was. I mean, if you think about it, we've had presidents shot multiple times. Presidents, people at the helm, whether you hate them or love them, people at the helm of the country were killed. You know what I mean? Whether you hate them or love them, that's insane. You know what I mean? We've had at that same time in the 60s, we had civil rights leaders killed on their fucking balcony. Okay, that's not happening either. We at that same time we were going through a huge influx of drugs, and also we were in a war. Like there was some shit going on in the 60s. Okay, and they lived through it.
They were the first 2020.
Huh?
They were the first 2020.
Exactly. I think we're like breathe. I think, and you know what? I have a goddamn idea, and this may be, but I think ultimately, when you break it down, part of the thing, and Christina Pazinski and Dr. Drew kind of talked about it, but I think part of the reason why we're going all fucking crazy right now is because we've been inside for 3 months. We've been fucking inside for 2-3 months. Humans need to fuck. There's a lot of single motherfuckers on Antifa websites going, goddamn white people who just need to pound some pussy. Like, God damn it. There's a lot of spiritual benefit to just wrapping your hand around some fucking hair and going to town on a bitch. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, what was I mad about? We need to fuck, and we need to go outside and touch people. That needs to happen. So because we haven't done that, we need to approach this craziness with some understanding. Yeah. We need to understand, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm this emotional because I ain't fucked in a long time. Maybe I'm this emotional because I haven't gone to the fucking movies. Yeah. I haven't gone to the fucking baseball game. I haven't gone here. I haven't seen my grandmother in 3 months. I haven't seen my dad in 3 months. I haven't hugged. I mean, there's people who haven't hugged their fucking kids in 2-3 months.
I haven't hugged my mom or dad in the whole time. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So of course we're going to be a little crazy, of course. But during this time, this temporary time where we're feeling all topsy-turvy, don't tell people what they're allowed to say and think. That's not, I think, a lot to ask. Don't tell people that they're not allowed to have the conversation. Don't approach, when I post a thing about Larry Elder on Ben Shapiro last night, when I post that on Instagram and be like, hey, what did the numbers say? I know you feel this way, and I know you mean well. I've tried to pepper in a lot of I know you mean well, but what do the numbers say? And then, go against me like, well, I remember you're just being this and that. I'm like, I get you. I know you mean well. What numbers are you looking at? And get nothing back. Be an adult.
Isn't it crazy? Like, I'd like to think that I played my cards right during this quarantine in terms of self-maintenance. Everyone needs to take this opportunity for self-maintenance, and we'll get into the conversation of meditation because I'm totally curious on your habits. But it's kind of the thing to me is from the beginning, I was more afraid of the people than the actual virus. And not in kind of an economy's kind of collapsing way, just the day-to-day of uncertainty, which is something I have OCD, so I have those thoughts of catastrophizing every second spliced into my perception of reality. But you still have to operate knowing what's entirely in your control. And going into this and getting into the trenches of this experience that is the quarantine, you saw people flailing. Like it showed in characteristics of hoarding a bunch of groceries. I don't know, scaring people in line at the grocery, being like, oh, they're gonna come, or I can't even go on Reddit anymore. I love Reddit, but I couldn't go on Reddit and Twitter because everyone had to be a coronavirus expert, where they told everyone, how can you have any optimism? People are dying. Don't you know the death rate in Italy and blah, 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 blah. And it was just this complete shutdown. And I'd love to hear your opinion on Dr. Drew, because I've been following him through this whole quarantine, and other doctors, because they had an approach of, Dr. Drew's tagline is, Corona updates without the anxiety. That's all I wanted. And I would still go and look at the numbers myself. But even he was getting canceled because people were splicing his little clips from Fox News. And I never saw those things. I've been watching him 3 hours every day for 2 months, and he's been telling the exact opposite of what's in that 2-minute clip that went viral. And the dude was getting death threats. And it's just kind of like, so now you can't have optimism, you can't have nuance, even in this. And I thought the source of it was just the fear of the uncertainty about the world, uncertainty about who you are in this universe. And instead of addressing that fear through reading, writing, exercise, meditation, whatever you want, playing music, you point blame. You point blame, you complain, there's legitimate, if you lost your job and your family is struggling to make, I get it, that's fucking tragic. And I don't know the experience of that. I'm on an unemployment myself right now, but you can do it with grace and maturity. Like I don't know.
But we also need to understand and have some understanding to the spirits, side of things, and realize that it's normal for us to be acting as dumb as we are right now. It's normal. That's and I don't think one of the ways out of this collective anxiety is to shame people for having it. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying,
because I'm not. It's just interesting.
Right. No, it is very interesting. I agree. But I think part of the way is to always point to, and I've tried to do this and tried to internalize it myself, is to point to self-care being number one. That I'm responsible for this little cul-de-sac. That how's my, if I'm angry at the world, how's my relationship with my ma? How's my relationship with my dad? How's my relationship with this girl? How's this? How's that? How am I taking care of my fucking house? Am I eating well? Am I sleeping? Am I doing exercise? You know what I mean? And how that if all of us are doing that, that flowers into love everywhere else. That flowers into health everywhere else. That flowers into self-care, and that influences people a lot more because we are there.
It's contagious.
Mm-hmm.
It's contagious in the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
And as far as it has been hard, but I think, the times that I've messed up, and there's a lot of them, the times that I've messed up, I don't think the way to do better is to shame myself for it. Though I don't think the way to do better is what a dumb human I am. Like, what a human you are. What a human you are.
That's good.
And,
I said that's really good.
Yeah.
What a human you are. It's very kind to yourself. I applaud that.
Yeah, I try to do that. And I've been meditating every day. I think it's been 3 months. And sometimes, more than others. Especially I find I have a better day when I take intentional breaks, away from the phone. I take little intentional breaks away from the phone pretty much every time I have a cigarette, which is about 7 times a day.
Oh, I was just about to ask that because I listened to your other podcast where you said you stopped for a while.
I did.
I was wondering how meditation has added to your perspective on your smoking habit. Like, whether I'm not condemning it, like a genuine, how's your outlook on that habit?
I have a spiritual guide who actually, like, one of the ways he meditates or joins with his spirit guides, and not in person, but his ethereal hippie version, spirit guide, is through cigarettes, is through tobacco. You know what I mean? Like the Native Americans used to do, and there is something meditative about it. And there is something, I'm not saying I need to do it. And I'm not saying whatever. I don't want to influence anybody who is trying to quit right now to smoke.
We're all adults.
But I have done that and tried to be conscious of it. I have folded it into my meditational practice because when I am conscious of it and doing it consciously, I have less drive to do it. I have less drive because it's the same thing with food. When I'm not paying attention to what I'm eating and I'm just like, rah, 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 then I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. It's the same thing with cigarettes. Like, I can be in the middle of a cigarette feeling like, when is my next cigarette? Like it's the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I do it with sushi. When I have like six pieces, as soon as I'm on the first one, I'm like, I only have 5 left.
What's your record for most? This is totally tangent. What's your record for most sushis eaten in one sitting?
Oh shit! Don't even start with that shit. There's this
What is
place,
yours?
Naru Sushi or something. I'm not sure if it's obviously Nuru Sushi. I think it's
Yeah.
over on California and Pine. I think, or California and Post in San Francisco. And I had, on a good ass motherfucking cheat day, I would get like, because the jumbo rolls or the super rolls are like 8 pieces maybe, and so I'd get like 2 of those and then like another one. You know what I mean? So I'd have probably, I'd say like 20. I think.
Oh, I thought you were gonna. Did you actually? You should. Do you think you can still? Do you think you can still go into a place and keep count of how many sushis you've eaten? Like, because my record is 37.
Good Lord.
I was.
I must have beat that. I must have beat that. I'm talking about my most concrete tangible record, because I would just grab it and go. I don't want to go to no fucking, you know what I mean? I don't want to be around people when I eat sushi. Sorry. If I'm cheating on my diet, I don't want to be near you, motherfucker. I want to be alone with my Netflix show that I've already watched 1,000,000 times, like a dirty golem. You know what I mean? Like I just want to be like, I don't want to be near people.
Well, that was at a Moonstar, and I was in high school. I couldn't try that record if I dared to right now. If you could pay me, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But meditation is making you more mindful on your day to day, and what are you becoming more conscious of?
Being nice to myself. Being nice to myself.
That's
I had never tried, as much as I would poo-poo, hippie shit and still do, and that's okay. Like I have never tried the solution being radical self-acceptance. Radical self-acceptance. Where like, oh, I'm smoking a cigarette. Why don't I go there with my higher power and with my spirit guides and with myself, my higher self? Why don't I practice that with that? Why don't I practice being completely self-accepting instead of, well, I guess I'll let myself be okay after the cigarette, or I'll let myself be nice to myself after when I'm losing weight, or when I fuck that, because it just gets more bullshit. Me being mean to myself just begets me being mean to myself some more. You know what I mean? And so it's really been helpful for me to practice, and I don't do a very good job, and that's perfect too.
That's perfect too, yeah.
Right, but I practice being completely okay with myself as I am. And it's a hard thing to do, but it's possible, and I'm getting better at it.
Do you notice that? Oh, how long have you been practicing? You said like a couple months.
Yeah, I mean, over the last like 15 years, I would meditate by like watching a movie, or whatever, or maybe once every couple of months I would sit down for 10 minutes just hating this and just like, I'll get through it, just get through it. But now I've been every morning I meditate about 5-6 minutes, and I listen to something, either a guided meditation, and I would always think I'm too crazy to whatever, but I noticed that the more I tell myself bullshit, or just because I believe something about myself, even if it's funny, and I used it for bits, doesn't make it a true thing.
Yeah.
And the more I repeat shit about myself, the more true it becomes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You perform what you think. You perform the thought.
Right. And I am especially during this crazy time, it has been really difficult to let go of that practice performance. It's been really difficult to not, and I think it's been helpful in some ways, especially in tweaking and these certain social media posts. But it also can be goddamn obsessive, and I'm trying really hard to like not beat myself up for practicing it, performances, as well as so I can like leave space for it, but also not carry it with me.
Yeah,
it's hard to carry it with me.
Do you notice when you get into like when you get into a nice rhythm and flow of just surrendering to the universe, as woo-woo as that sounds, do you notice, and I mean this in the most complimentary way, things feel really slow?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's I take for granted the fact that I've been having a phone in my hand of some sort, like an iPod video, since high school. So that's 10 years straight of waking up every day to look at a screen. And when you take those times to pause and get away from that, you're like, oh, I forgot how slow life moves. Life is fast, but it's also very slow in a gentle sort of way. Even if some crazy shit is going on, it's still individual moments, and that's so easy to forget.
And I think another thing to that presence idea, it can sound like it's flippant or like it's not caring about other stuff or whatever. But I think it also goes to that idea of privilege. You know, I've been given the opportunity because, you know, I've been struggling with money since I was fucking 17. You know, working jobs and losing jobs and living check to check, living, you know, paying last month's bills with next month's money. I've been in that position for a long time, you know, and I've gotten a lot better at it. But I've also had the opportunity because, you know, I've had the opportunity to go to school and stuff. And there's this piece of guilt in me, like you were talking about. There's this piece of guilt in me, like, oh, I should be struggling more, or I should be. What about those motherfuckers? Like a big liberal thing idea is like more estate tax. Estate tax is when you die, we get to tax you again for the money that we already fucking taxed you. And what's the end game of that is like, well, fuck your kids. Like, no. Like, just because there is spiritual benefit to going through stuff doesn't mean that rich kids aren't going to also go through stuff. Okay, the human condition exists whether you have money or you fucking do not. The human condition is ruthless. Motherfuckers who are rich as shit OD every fucking day. Motherfuckers who are rich as shit hang themselves fucking constantly. Don't fucking tell me. And yet poor people all over the place are living and not killing themselves. I wonder why that fucking is. Because human condition is ultimate, and ideas are ultimate, and the end game of feeling shame for privilege is I'll just get rid of all my privilege. Fuck you. My parents, people work really fucking hard to give money to their kids, to give opportunity to their kids, and it's okay for their kids to take advantage of that. It's okay. It's okay. And as far as the last thing attached to that is, man, I lost my fucking train of thought. I just feel like, oh, that's what it is. Presence. When I get off of social media, like you're saying, when I give myself time to go up on my roof and look around, everything's okay. Everything's okay. Yeah, I got a fucking roof. What a blessed piece of shit I am. Not only that, I haven't had to worry about rollover minutes in fucking forever. Right now, I could go to the store and get almond milk. I have almond milk in my fridge right now. What a little fucking fag, you know what I mean? Like I have food, I have water, I have a fucking Brita, I have a computer, I have a phone, I don't have to worry about my, where. A lot of people do right now, but don't get me wrong. Yeah. But there's a lot of good shit right now, and I'm talking about everybody fucking listening to this right now. There is good shit happening in your fucking life right now, and yet you're fucking listening to my stupid ass. Turn it all off. Turn it all the fuck off. Go outside. Sit on your porch, you lucky piece of shit. Go sit on your stoop, you lucky piece of shit, and enjoy. Be present with the sun right now. Be present with it's Saturday. You know what I mean? Don't get yourself so stirred up that I have to fucking, and I'm telling this to myself too, I have to fight the blah, blah, blah. No, you don't. No, you don't. Take a half hour, take 2 hours to just sit quietly and feel it. Feel whatever you're feeling and be okay with it. You know what I mean?
It's crazy because you're talking about, again, privilege, and people see privilege and they see that as being immune from suffering, and it's not a possibility, and it sucks because I've been through a lot since I last spoke to you. I finished the program, and for my student teaching, I was placed at a Title I school, and here in the I'll say the county I work for. I won't say that, but
I'll cut that out. Yeah,
that's okay. In the county I work for, and many counties around, Title I schools are for lower income students. So I worked at that, and I also worked as a sub at the affluent schools. And I had a moment where I was teaching at the affluent schools, and I heard a terrible story about a kid I liked, but he was just a complete asshole. And apparently, his mom and dad were going through a bitter divorce where the mom up and left the family and just moved to another state. I won't say whatever state. Moved to another state, and literally she will send for him a plane ticket for him to go to where he just stays with his going to the state he's at, and he'll live there, but he won't be in school the whole time. And it's like, I can see when he's acting up in class to me that the kid is, yeah, he's being annoying, but I know there's a source of pain for that shit. And I'm never going to reach that. And it's almost arrogant to think that I can completely change with my influence of time with him compared to what he's experiencing at home. Like, that's a mess. But I was thinking this because someone's going to hear that and be like, you're at an affluent school. You don't have any pain. Like, that kid, can you imagine being a kid and knowing that you're upper middle class while your home is in shambles? And you're looking at the narrative being like, well, the kids at the lower income or the black kids or the minorities are struggling. No one's going to think about me. What chance do I have?
Right.
That is a terrible thing to think about for yourself.
Not only will not anyone listen to you or give you understanding on a spiritual level, they will tell you to shut up because of the color of your skin.
Yeah, you're white, and it's just like, if you really believe in that idea, say it to that 10-year-old. Have the balls to say it to a kid. Like, that's just, it sucks, man. And then I was listening to your other podcast with the anonymous teacher, and she was talking about her experience working in lower income schools and how she learned quickly that it's not about a lack of funds. It was kind of, some of these families just don't care about education and don't value it. So right. Nothing is reinforced when they get home. And that's not a matter of the color of their skin. Right. That's the culture of the individual family. So why would I, in deciding to go to a place to teach, why would I be led by, well, I need to go where I'm needed most, the lower income? That's an admirable thing. And the teachers that do that, fucking props to them. But if you're doing that to make you feel like good, that's very patronizing.
Right.
It's very patronizing, and you are not realizing that all these kids have problems no matter what, and that there's some terrible things, and money is a source of one of those problems, not just from being poor, but also from being well off. So, yeah, I hate that shit. Like, I'm so excited to be a teacher, but I'm very aware of the politics that are going to come my way, especially with the 1619 project and the curriculum that's being pushed.
What's the 1619 project?
The New York Times, specifically the one written by Nicole Hannah-Jones. It's this huge huge essay that makes the argument that America was founded on 1619 when these slave ships came to America. Basically a whole argument that the Civil War was made to keep slavery around. And numerous Civil War historians were like, yo, there's so many discrepancies on this. We agree with the idea, sure, that blacks were mistreated, but whoa, the data and the actual evidence for this, it just doesn't comply. And it doesn't matter because it's really contagious and white guilt is powerful, and they're trying to push it in schools and high schools to teach like this. And I'm very averse to that, and I'm very conscious that I could get into bumps in the road in terms of me and administration. They'll be like, you're not going to teach this? How could you? They can't say I'm racist. That's a good thing because I'm the color of my skin.
Yeah.
If I were a white guy saying that, God help you.
Right.
But
God damn it.
I will say,
just
here's Here's a hopeful thing I will say. So the last semester of San Jose State, I had to do my master's project, and I decided to focus on having these difficult conversations with kids, but not me being we're going to talk about specifically this, and me building a fence around the conversation. I wanted to treat,
What does that mean? You might have been about
so to. It's like, it's like you can talk about these things with kids as a teacher, but you can set boundaries like, okay, no talking and saying uncomfortable statistic, no saying that, don't offend Jimmy. Like, I wanted to treat it like, okay, I want this conversation, and these kind of conversations, it's going to be a conversational jungle gym for the kids. You can do whatever you want on the structure. You can climb up the slide. You can jump off the monkey bars. You might get hurt, but that's the jungle gym. It's fun and it's painful at the same time. And I don't want to rob you of the opportunity to even have any risk in conversation. So I had a conversation with the kids where, and this was a very diverse group, 2 white kids, girls, Filipino, Native American, Mexican. And I told them, hey, look, this is the curriculum that the school and the many other schools are pushing teachers to cover, and history regarding white people being bad. And the white kid, 10 years old, chimed in and he said, yeah, I don't know. I feel really guilty, and it's really weird. Like, some people will mistreat me because of the color of my skin, and I wouldn't do those things. My mom wouldn't do those things. My dad wouldn't do these things. I don't know, my grandfather would do these things, but I don't get why it results in me getting mistreated. And this is great. The Mexican kid chimes in and he's like, hold on, isn't that racist? And all the 10-year-olds were like, oh yeah, that's pretty bad. They're onto it. So I went further. I was like, do you care? And this is totally anecdotal. Group of 10 kids only. 10 kids in a small area. I get it. This is not for the whole world. Fine, give me that critique. But I asked them questions like, do you care about, if the character on a book looks like you or is the same gender as you? And then they were like, no. And then I was like, do you care if the person is a good person? What if the person looks like you but is just causing a ruckus everywhere they go? And they're like, yeah, no, I don't like that character. And they just got to a point where it's like, we don't care about the appearance of the person as long as the person is good, or at least neighborly. So that's kind of the kind of shit that gets me optimistic. I think the kids are aware of the shit, and they know that the conversation is getting stifled. Like last time I spoke with you, I brought up like one of my 7th grade students, and now they're in 8th grade, but she had written an essay about racial injustice in America, right? She had written the essay, and sure, it's 7th grade material. The teacher didn't put it up for back to school night or parent-teacher conference night, and it really bothered her. She's like, why? The teacher didn't give an answer, but when she asked me, I'm like, you know why. It's because you're white. You can't talk about race. And she's like, I know. And it's a shame. Like, and
the only way through, I mean, I know that we only are responsible for our cul-de-sac, and I still feel that way, absolutely. But I almost feel like this is going to be fucked up, and I don't care because it's kind of funny. Yeah. But I feel like I'm in the Thought Underground Railroad. Okay. Where I have to sneak in to my white friends who are being like, I'm a piece of shit, and just be like, here's some food.
Yeah.
Put down the whip. I know you can't say it out loud right now, but here's some thoughts. Here's some research. You're okay as you are. You're okay as you are. You're okay as you are. I'll be back. I got to go save some other motherfuckers and crawl through some Black Lives Matter bushes. Like, I just, I'm like, this is Thought Underground Railroad, God damn it. And I will stand against the fucking tides. I will stand against the tides, and I will take care of myself first and foremost. but I will always stand against the tides of anybody who's telling them other motherfuckers they don't get to say what they feel or don't get to feel what they feel.
And that same white girl, she was there when I was sipping the Kool-Aid. I had in my classroom, I had race in America, and then I had a picture of slavery, and then something in the civil rights era, and then I had a picture of Ta-Nehisi Coates at the end. It's like before, during. I know.
You, that dick sucking lip motherfucker. God, I hate that piece of shit. He's
know.
White ass Sean King. Anyway, continue.
But this is the thing. It's like I care so much because I had that mindset. The only difference between me and the people that are, I guess not the only difference, but one of the differences between me and the people who are fear and living in fear of having these conversations is that I didn't stop there. There's no problem with reaching that knowledge of understanding that America has done bad things, but don't stop there. Realize that bad things and nations go like this in human civilization. They are woven, and it's a terrible thing to realize, but holding on to that knowledge and just stopping there is not going to help anyone else. And I brought that up to her, the 7th grader, and she's like, we just laugh. We laugh at ourselves because it's like, and I told her, you're going to have dumb ideas. You better have dumb ideas as you get older. Don't hurt anyone. Right. Don't hurt anyone, but welcome the dumb ideas, but don't stop at the dumb ideas. And yeah.
Right on, dude. Thank you so much for coming on my show. I gotta piss.
No problem.
So fucking bad. Holy Jesus.
It's great to catch up with you.
Yeah, it's great to catch up with you, dude. And I really appreciate that you are, brave enough to express yourself. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. And and taking time out of your day to come on my stupid show and have this conversation is flowering love and openness everywhere else, not just in me and in you, but everywhere else as well. And all the people who listen, even if they disagree, so I appreciate your time and your effort, dude. It's a big deal.
Could I say one last thing?
No.
Okay. It's your show. It's your show. I was going to say, look, if you and I, to the people that are listening to this and vehemently disagreeing, to you, I say, if Peter and I can view you as frustrating as your ideas can get to us and condescending, we know that you have good intentions. We ask that you're able to prescribe that kind of viewpoint on us in having these conversations. Know that the good intentions are behind it. Assume everyone is going with the best intentions, and life is a lot less scary. Still scary, something. You should have a healthy amount of fear, but it's a lot less scarier than what you're putting in your own head. Be kind to yourself in that regard. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Did you want to, I guess you don't want to plug anything.
I don't have anything to plug. I would just say, like, if you can, this post edit, you're going to edit this part out where I'm talking about, can you just take off the part where I mentioned the school district and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I'm going to get back to talking on what can be the unedited part. I would say just look up 1776 project. This was a project that was is being put forward by Bob Woodson, former civil rights member, who's sharing a lot of the views we have, where it's a response to the 1619 project, where he wants to put stories, historical stories of African Americans and minorities persevering despite terrible circumstances and contributing something beautiful to this country through the values of the Constitution, despite, dealing with discrimination that I would never want to experience. And be optimistic. Go and educate yourself. That's all I got to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nico. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening, everybody. Leave a review, rate, and share with your everybody. Share with fucking everybody. Go ahead and find me on Instagram and TikTok at Peter_Feliciano. I swear a lot of my shit is mostly just dick dick joke memes. And also, make sure you like and subscribe wherever you're listening. And I appreciate you again, Nico. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Keep the music going, dude.
I will. Mary ate my sandwich.
Are you gonna end the recording, or do I have to hang up? I don't know.
Oh no, I'll when I hang up, it ends both.
Okay, for sure. Take care, Peter.
All right, brother. You too.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody.